He called the poop.
Now, in his particular case, he had an hernia. There's no Bert. I was so looking forward to this championship match on Saturday, but you guys all heard Whittaker's out. He's out for a hernia. He actually had to go emergency surgery at 4:30 a.m. And we're all told that it was life-threatening. Now, we don't know all the details. Obviously, HIPAA protected, patient confidentiality. He has all the rights to, keep that part of his life private, and I think that's reasonable. But we can speculate what happened, and we can try and understand what's going on. First of all, in terms of what's a hernia, what's going on. I've got a couple of examples here. I want to talk about what is a hernia. Now, in prior talks, I've talked about various types of hernias, and you can have a sports hernia, you can have an inguinal hernia, you can have a ventral hernia, and you can have an internal hernia. Now, in his particular case, he had an hernia.
Ernie?
There's no Bert. So, he had a hernia, and it sounds like it was an internal hernia. So that means that some of the bowels, so either the colon or large bowel, small bowel, ileus, or intestine, basically strangulated and got caught up, and sometimes you can have adhesions, scar tissues forming. Now, is that good or bad for him? Well, let's just say that a ventral hernia is when you get disruption within the abdominal fascia. So that means that all of the muscles and fascia that keep your guts in, that prevent you from taking a solid hit, allow you to do your crunches and tighten up your abs, is disrupted. That would be really bad. I don't think he would be able to return to this level of fighting if it was a true ventral hernia. That means the entire fascia blew up and the guts went out this way. That would be horrible. He would have a mesh, he'd have reconstruction, he would have surgery, probably some regenerative technology, and he would then have to wait a solid year, probably, if he had a true ventral hernia that disrupted his abdominal fascia. Now, in this particular case, it's internal, so is that better or not? Well, he's basically going to get pounded from the outside, so if his guts are okay on the inside and they get treated, then he should be fine. So what do we think actually happened? So according to what I've read, it was an internal hernia, and so what we're talking about is if you imagine that you have a small bowel and it's going along there and you get some scar tissue or a band of constriction, what happens is part of this gets constricted. Now, imagine this is a full column and then you've constricted it, so then the material, which is fecal matter,
He called the poop.
before it can come out, gets stuck. And that means what else do you pass through there? You pass liquid, you pass air. Now, can you imagine if you suddenly had a constriction and the material couldn't get through? Things are going to get tight. Now, the way nerves work in the gut, especially in the bowel, is they feel pain based on distension. So they don't feel the pain when things are going smoothly, but when you get gas and bloating and it blows up, that's when you get pain. You get that constriction and it limits the flow of things. Now that can happen in a ventral hernia or sports hernia as well. So imagine that your gut wall is here and then it blows through. So then you get a piece of bowel going through. Now it sounds like from the reports that's not what happened. It was internal. There was no fascia or muscle disruption is from what I've read and understand. And so we have to go by what is available in the public domain in terms of what we know. And so in that particular case, then he either had a piece of bowel twist around itself and get stuck, or it basically got constricted by a band. And, it's interesting. want to use this football as example. It's my 7-year-old son's football, and it, as you can see, there's a big hole in it. It blew up on the way back from Tahoe and kind of scared us because it suddenly blew up while we're driving down the snowy roads on Sunday trying to get back. And in the end, what can happen with your bowels when you get constriction is it can actually get so tight that it can blow and you can rupture the bowel. Or it could get so tight that it could cause pain. Again, it's the distension that causes pain. And when you get that distension, it can actually rupture and it can also incarcerate. And when it incarcerates, what else can happen? If things are so tight, you can't get blood flow. I knew you were right on that. See, you're listening. So your blood flow is restricted as well. So if your blood flow is restricted, then what happens? The tissue dies. And so that risk of rupture, incarceration, ischemic bowel, all of those are life-threatening. Ultimately. Now, a minor hernia is not life-threatening. Catching a hernia on time is not life-threatening. But ultimately, just for all we know, it was life-threatening because there was a risk of perforation, incarceration, and ischemia. Those are terrible things for anyone, regardless of the fact that this guy is a champion mixed martial arts athlete. The fact is, he was about to go into a championship fight, and it doesn't matter what he was doing. He could be getting ready for school for all that matters. You get something like that happen, internal hernia that's at risk for perforating, incarcerating, or ischemia, you have emergency surgery and you're out. Now, how long will that take? We don't know. We don't know all the details, but it sounds like he may be back in the summer. So it sounds like it is an internal hernia, not a major fascia or muscle wall disruption. So let's hope for him. We'll see him back in the ring. Good luck.